California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
Well, I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent, to me, doesn't compare.
He came to restore California's image. Instead, he became the face of its unraveling. Maher's interview turned into an intervention. When homelessness came up, Maher cut straight to it. You can talk about tech growth all you want, but people step over human misery every day. Despite billions spent on housing projects, the tents remain. When Newsom blamed courts and inflation, Maher stopped him cold. You're the governor. If California can't fix homelessness with its budget, who can? The exchange grew heavier when public safety entered the mix. Maher cited viral robberies and shuttered stores. It's not about stats, it's about trust. You've lost it. His words echoed frustration Californians feel daily. Newsom's polished replies, "We're investing in solutions," fell flat. Maher pushed again. The world you're describing doesn't match what Californians live through. They don't see transformation. They see tents. That line broke through the noise. The clip exploded online, not out of outrage, but exhaustion. Californians are done with promises. They want proof. Maher's confrontation wasn't partisan. It was truth cutting through spin. By the end, Newsom's composure cracked. Maher's takedown symbolized something bigger, the collapse of rhetoric over results. California, once the model of progressive success, now stands as a warning. The richest state with the worst poverty. The most idealistic with the deepest inequality. When Maher asked, "If you can't fix California, how can you fix America?" it landed like a verdict. It wasn't a conservative attack. It was a liberal reckoning. The message was unmistakable. Slogans don't solve problems. Virtue signaling can't replace competence. Progress doesn't need branding. It needs truth.
Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass have already proven their incompetence and poor leadership during the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, as we experience rampant lawlessness and civil unrest, it's never been more clear they're unable to respond effectively and responsibly during calamity. Whether it's sheer incompetence or outright malevolence, the reality is stark. California's in a state of turmoil, and I ask my fellow Angelenos, why are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass still in office? How much more of their destructive decision-making masquerading as leadership are we going to tolerate? It's time to take back our community and our state and put the power and the privilege in the hands of competent leaders whose goals are to protect us and the way of life this nation.
It sounded scripted, maybe even heartfelt, but Maher's face said it all. You've had time. Billions in funding. Endless commissions. Where's the result?
With familiar buzzwords.
He asked.
Reinvestment,
the camera
equity,
caught Newsom
infrastructure.
Blinking, just long enough for his confidence to slip into defense. Then Maher leaned in. You call it bold leadership, he said. I call it mismanagement with good PR. Gasps filled the room. It wasn't just harsh, it was true. Anyone who's waited in a DMV line, dodged potholes, or watched freeways crumble knew exactly what he meant. Newsom tried to joke it off. You're starting to sound like Sean Hannity. Maher grinned. No, Sean Hannity roots for your failure. I live here. The crowd erupted, not in polite laughter, but with real conviction. This wasn't about left or right anymore. It was about honesty. By now, the interview had flipped. Maher wasn't hosting. He was cross-examining. Newsom's talking points about prosperity bounced off a wall of lived frustration. Each Maher interruption hit like a reality check. The governor had walked into a liberal space and found no shield left.
Stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's
No, but it's
silly?
interesting.
Do you think that's a silly thing that
What was
we
interesting?
too much government there?
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support.
His tone had the polish of a campaign ad, measured, proud, and just a little too smooth to feel real. But Maher wasn't buying it. He'd heard this speech before. Newsom's defense rested on two ideas: that California's problems were proof of its success, and that critics ignored its economic might. He rattled off stats: GDP, renewables, venture capital, diversity, as if numbers alone could outshine the decay. Maher barely blinked. "That sounds great," he said, "but people don't live off GDP, they live off reality." The line drew a mix of laughs and groans. Newsom smirked, searching for a comeback that never came. Then Maher cut straight through the spin. "You can't brag about saving the planet when you can't even save San Francisco." It hit like a verdict. The audience's applause was uneasy, half shock, half relief. Maher wasn't attacking from the right. He was challenging hypocrisy from within. Newsom tried again, insisting that the state's chaos was simply the growing pains of progress. But the room had already shifted. The illusion of control was gone.
I feel like this country is divided into owners and healers. People who think you can own the other side. Gavin Newsom owned DeSantis. DeSantis destroyed Gavin Newsom. Or people who want to talk and heal. And I feel like the next president's going to be, at least if it comes from this party, the Democratic Party, someone who wants to talk and heal.
It's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature.
Every time someone leaves, Maher said, "That's your tax base walking away. That's your social program shrinking. You can't fund progressive ideals with fewer taxpayers." It was cold, surgical truth. Newsom tried to pivot, talking about green energy, tech innovation, and social leadership. Maher nodded slowly, then delivered the knockout line. "I love all that. I love this state. But when the lights are off and everyone's moved to Austin, who are you leading?" Silence. No applause, just impact. Even loyal Democrats admitted online that Maher's words hit hard because they weren't partisan, they were personal. In that moment, Maher became the voice of the disillusioned Californian, someone who still believes in progressive ideals but refuses to accept incompetence as their cost. What unfolded wasn't just TV. It was a mirror held to power, raw, live, and impossible to look away from. Newsom tried to recover, defaulting to his usual performance, shoulders squared, smile fixed, reciting talking points. But the damage was already done.
It was looking bad there for a while, and we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. And then whenever I read, 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds. No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Come on, man. Take on Big Almond.
Take on Big Almond.
This wasn't a conservative ambush. It was one liberal holding another accountable. Commentators didn't call it an interview. They called it an intervention. When Maher leaned forward and said, "You're running the state, everyone's leaving," the mood shifted instantly. No laughter, no setup, just truth. Newsom insisted California still leads in jobs and creativity, brushing off the exodus as right-wing spin. Maher cut him off. "This isn't Fox News, Gavin. I'm talking about my friends, my neighbors. They're done paying top dollar for dysfunction." The exchange grew raw. Maher described the tense, the smell, the danger after dark. Newsom talked about compassion and reform, but Maher fired back, "You've been in charge for years, and it's worse." The audience fell silent in uneasy agreement. Then came taxes. Maher laid out the numbers with surgical precision. "You're draining the middle class. People making $80,000 can't afford rent. You tax them like millionaires and give them potholes and crime. Newsom countered with buzzwords: reinvestment, equity, infrastructure. But Maher's face said it all: disbelief. How can you brag about GDP when people can't live with dignity? He asked. You talk about compassion, but we can't drive to work without seeing despair on every block. The question hit hard. This wasn't about politics anymore. It was about survival. Newsom claimed big problems take big time, but the numbers told the truth. 500,000 Californians left between 2022 and 2023. And then Maher delivered the final blow.
Last couple of years, you've purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? But you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state. Yeah. And I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. This has been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just.
Cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland have become symbols of decline. Tech giants like Tesla, Oracle, and Hewlett-Packard have fled to Texas and Nevada, with thousands of residents following. Crime and looting have gotten so bad that stores like Walgreens and Target now lock up basic items or shut down entirely. Then there's the crushing tax burden, California's 13.3% top rate. The highest in the nation has even liberals rebelling. Maher, a longtime Angeleno, has mocked the absurdity of paying elite-level taxes while dodging potholes and homeless encampments. He's warned for months that California's progressive dream has curdled into delusion. So when Newsom arrived on set defending the blue state model, citing GDP growth, Silicon Valley innovation, and climate progress, Maher wasn't buying it.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government there?
That's an interesting one because the department stores came to us supporting that. And they're the ones making a case for that. They were making a case, they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation.
Bill Maher didn't hold back. On Real Time, he went straight at Gavin Newsom, live, unfiltered, and unafraid, accusing the California governor of overseeing a state in decline. From homelessness and taxes to crime and mass migration, Maher exposed it all. The real shock came when Newsom admitted something deeper. Even the Democratic Party itself is beginning to fracture. This wasn't routine political chatter. It was a moment of reckoning that lit up social media. Maher's critique wasn't just outrage. It was the frustration of a fed-up Californian. Once a model of progress, the Golden State now feels like a warning. Under Newsom, homelessness has soared past 180,000, the highest in the nation, despite billions poured into programs that have failed to deliver results.